What is the absolute worst game you ever played? Maybe you thought of a game that was disappointing, or maybe you thought of a game that is filled with bugs and glitches. Although a few games I personally don't really like came to mind, I decided to find the definitive answer. I found a list of the top 100 lowest rated games on Steam, and I'm gonna play them all to find out which game I personally think is the worst. Now, let's spin the wheel and get ready to go dumpster diving. Edge of Space? Cool, let's get right into it. You know, I've seen some pretty abysmal title screens on dumpster diving, but this is definitely the worst one yet. Alright, maybe the second worst. It looks like this website used to have some helpful information back when the developers could afford to pay for their website, but now we just get a giant Wix ad. Then once you close that, the buttons just seem really small and scattered all over the place. The only part that really stands out is this random box in the top right that asks you to leave a review for the game. This is both completely out of place with the rest of the UI and just bad practice when you ask people to leave a review before they even played the game. That's like asking people to subscribe before they even get through most of the video. I mean, who would do something like that? Maybe I'm wrong though. I mean, Edge of Space did get enough reviews to make it onto the worst games of all time list, so there's that. When it comes to making our character, the good news is there's actually a lot more customization options than I thought there would be. The bad news is I can't see any of them because I left my magnifying glass at home. Once you start loading into the game, you get a pity achievement and a giant codex that acts as the tutorial. Since this is a video game, you'd assume that the developers would try and implement a tutorial inside of the game itself. Maybe they make a dedicated tutorial area, or at the very least they'd have in-game pop-ups. Instead, we get a whole bunch of these videos of a guy vaguely describing the game. These videos also aren't edited, meaning that there's no visuals so you don't know what he's talking about, and he's hard to hear since the video has a lot of background noise.
The numbers next to your health bar shows your current cryo rods, which lets you respawn.
Then once you're done watching that video, you get to another set of videos where it turns out there was apparently an entire tutorial level in the game at one point.
Exit the door on the right to enter the tutorial. Right-click the escape pod on your left to skip the tutorial.
Why can't I just play that? From what I was able to gather from the videos, Edge of Space reminds me a lot of Terraria, which makes sense because the two have collaborated before. In both games, your main goal is to run around, gathering resources and building bases in order to gear up and fight the monsters you find around the map. However, even though I like the art style of Terraria, I can't say the same for Edge of Space. I really like the way some of the art looks here, like in the background, but most of the assets just feel out of place. Like this random flying shark guy, for example. I tried talking to the shark guy and he wants us to kill a jellyfish attacking him, which is weird because I don't see any Oh, never mind. After that ambush, the shark introduces himself as Phineas and asks us to make him a new laser gun as his current one has herpes. Oh wait, his translator was broken. What he meant to say was his gun was corroded. I try to find cream or something to fix his poor gun, but time doesn't pause when you're watching tutorials or talking to people, meaning it's already nighttime. Unlike in other games where they give you a little bit of light at night, here I can't see a single thing. I can't afford torches and I don't know how to light up the area I'm standing in, so I just have to wander around in the dark hoping I can find something to mine. As you mine, you gain science experience that fills up this bar along the bottom. Once you have enough experience, you can use that to research different items and objects that you can then build at one of the various stations at your base. When it comes to crafting an object, there are several different classes of materials that you can choose to spend to make it. Sometimes these are specific materials like mud and dirt, and other times you get to choose from a list of items that you want to use. Even though I like this idea a lot, in execution it makes the game feel pretty clunky. For starters, the crafting bench automatically adds a filter so you can only see the facility type buildings. The game never tells you that though, so it took me 10 minutes to figure out why I couldn't build any of the objects that I researched. Then, when I could see all the recipes, none of the materials I needed make any sense. Why can I make half of everything in the game with dirt instead of wood or metal? It's also annoying just trying to gather materials in the first place. When you first spawn in, all you have is a gun to defend yourself and a multi-tool that can mine almost anything. Your first goal is to find dirt, mud, rock, and clay. Like I said earlier, when it's dark, you just have to blindly run around and explore caves hoping that you stumble on what you need to find. Combine the poor lighting with the iffy art style, and I had no idea what was dirt, what was clay, and what was mud. Look at this. This looks a lot more like rocks or stone than it does mud. Mining isn't even that satisfying either, since there's no real audio or visual feedback to make it feel rewarding. When you're playing a game like Minecraft, you can see how fast you mine a block and you get that audio feedback whenever you destroy it. Here, you see the block gets set on fire, then it's automatically added to your inventory. Aside from mining, the only other major thing you can do in this game is to fight monsters, and to be honest, I don't enjoy that either. You start the game off with a gun, which is usually a good thing since the range will let you keep some distance from your enemies. The only issue is that when you shoot at an enemy, sometimes they're propelled towards you for no reason. The monsters in this game are also extremely strong, meaning that in the beginning you can die in just a few hits. For example, right below where I spawned, I had an objective to clear a nest of zombies. The only issue is that the zombies have so much health that the nest spawned zombies faster than I could kill them. Then, when I finally managed to destroy all the the nest, the game told me to disarm some bombs that appeared or leave the area. Since I immediately died when that message showed up, that counted as leaving the area and the entire base blew up. So now I have a massive hole below my spawn and I lost out on all the loot I spent the last 15 minutes trying to get. Thanks, game. Looking at some of the Steam reviews, it appears that Edge of Space was supposed to receive constant updates. After a bit of research, it turns out that the developers did update the game for a few months and would post a couple announcements saying the game wasn't dead. This was followed by 2.5 years of radio silence before the devs admitted the game was dead and that they were holding a post-mortem interview. In the interview, a dev named Lord Shaggy, or LS, talked about how the company was constantly on the verge of running out of money and they were, quote, asked to add new features, to be doing things to make themselves market relevant and newsworthy. Then, after a bug on launch day, one developer predicted at the time they had maybe 2 or 3 months at their current resource costs before they ran out of resources. So they patched the game for those couple of months, then they ghosted the fanbase for a little under 3 years. This might be pessimistic of me, but I don't believe what LS says since there's a lot of parts that don't make sense. When talking about why they were quiet for so long, he says, "We were asked to run silent," before later saying that it was ultimately my call to remain silent. There were people on the team who advised me not to be. LS also said that they had a planned launch date with 2 months of buffer resources, but the game got delayed, which used up some of those resources that they would need to pick up after the poor sales of the launch. LS also said that the launch was poor since a lot of streamers that were supposed to play the game were told to delay their streams due to a multiplayer bug the devs had never seen before. The bug was fixed 10 hours later, however the streamers were never informed about the bug fix due to a communication error. I don't understand how the developers lost money from this though. From what LS said, it sounded like when the game was delayed, they knew Edge of Space would have a poor release and would need updates. But he also said that the main reason the game had a poor launch was due to the issues with the streamers. I can understand why this would damage the sales in the first day, but Edge of Space didn't peak in player numbers until a couple days after release. If anything, more people bought and played the game after the multiplayer bug was fixed, so why didn't they just pay the same or different streamers to play the game a couple days late? To be honest, I don't know for a fact if LS is lying or not since the transcript is extremely difficult to read. These inconsistencies could be from LS trying to pawn the blame off to somebody else, he could be remembering things wrong, or maybe the guy who wrote the script didn't know English very well. Either way, it doesn't change my rating at all. At the end of the day, Edge of Space is a boring game that lost support when the developers decided to ignore their fanbase for nearly 3 years. For that, I think Edge of Space is one of the worst games I've played so far. Anyway, I hope to see you guys again next time. Peace out.